put that bit as our cold open, and I'm going.
I wasn't recording! I'm so mad I wasn't recording while we were trying to decide which STD is the clap, and whether or not you gave it to me.
Well, I definitely didn't give it to you.
You did not give me the clap. You tried to improv game me, though, but I shut that shit right the fuck down.
Yeah, because we went to theater school.
Ain't no zip zap zop today.
And what is today?
Today is a Thursday. It's not even a Thursday. Shit.
We are on one right now.
You know what we are on? A brand new episode of Soon to Be a Major Motion Podcast. The podcast where we... Go fuck yourself. The podcast where we watch movies that were based on books and read books that are turned into movies. I am Billy Beck.
I am Codie Beck.
And today we start a new adventure. We finished the Scorsese. The spinning circle of Scorsese has been burned in a bonfire, never to be revisited until we decide to go back to that well. And we advance into the summer months. Summers, picnics, beaches, bonfires, the 4th of July, and summer blockbusters. But before we get into that anymore, how have you been?
I've been fine. Had a wild experience today.
Do you want to tell about it?
I got a call from my neighbor that there were gentlemen from the power and water department here to shut off our power and water because our building is going to be demolished. The fact that our building is going to be demolished is not news. We are aware of that. The fact that they were here to shut off our power with absolutely no warning was. So I ended up leaving work, coming home. They left by the time I got here, and we have no idea. We didn't get IDs. She didn't get a copy of the work order. My neighbor's a younger woman, which was another reason that I wanted to come back, just in case.
She needed a backup mom.
Exactly. And the other thing that's weird is that, like, they didn't talk to anyone else on the property. They just talked to her. So we don't know if it was a scam. We don't know if it was a legitimate DWP call to the wrong address or what. But that was a stressful, 2 hours of my morning.
I mean, it definitely wasn't supposed to happen because I called DWP and they told me, no, you're good. We have no orders to go to that property and shut off power.
The other thing is that you would think, they would shut off the gas first.
You'd think. But you've had more than just today in this week. In fact, since we last recorded, you got a little bit older.
Oh, fuck.
Someone had a birthday.
I did. I'm an old lady.
Someone is in her lower mid-30s now.
I am now 33. I'm officially aging myself on the podcast.
Officially older than Jesus. Or...
Well...
depending.
No, he was 33 and a quarter when he died. I'm still younger than Jesus.
For now.
So how about you? How have you been?
Fine. My wife had a birthday, so we went out to our local tiki spot for the burlesque show.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was a good time. Pretty ladies not wearing a lot of clothing, and the one lady set herself on fire.
She did! That was cool!
That was very neat. But other than that, I'll have more to talk about next time, because I'm going on a free vacation this weekend.
He's abandoning me for 2 glorious days.
I'm abandoning my boy.
Yeah, realistically, you're abandoning your boy. You don't care about me.
I considered calling the hotel to see if I can take him with.
Can you imagine putting him on a plane?
Oh, he'd be so happy.
Would you?
He'd be spending time with me. In the carrier he likes to live in.
I would not put him in that carrier. I know it's literally an airline carrier, but it's so small.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yes.
He's a big boy, and he's licking his hand right now. He's being real fucking cute.
It's a fucking menace. He jumped on my face again last night.
He's trying to distract us from the matter at hand. Speaking of the matter at hand, Codie, what's that book on the table?
The book on the table is actually a New York Times bestseller.
Ooh, The Secret? I don't know why that's the first New York Times bestseller I could pull.
Isn't there a movie based on that with Rachel McAdams? Or no, it's Katie Holmes.
There's a shitty movie loosely based on the idea of The Secret that has a plot and is ass, and then there's another movie that is just The Secret in movie form.
Both of those sound terrible.
One of them my choir director made me watch in high school.
The choir director who cheated on her husband?
Yeah. With the orchestra director, who was my orchestra director in elementary school.
Ew.
She's dead.
Oh. not because of that.
No,
for the record.
It's completely unrelated, but ooh. Might have to edit that out.
So, the New York Times bestseller that I read this week was Jaws by Peter Benchley.
Wow, how fitting, considering all the summer talk we just had.
Yeah. What about you? I see there's a movie under my copy of Jaws.
Would you believe that relatively unknown novel, Jaws, was turned into a relatively unknown film by a relatively unknown film director back in the relatively unknown mid-70s?
You keep saying relatively unknown. I don't think...
Because irony is fun for me. Yeah, that's right. We're talking about Jaws.
Hell yeah.
You want to watch a trailer?
Yes. Actually, I'm genuinely curious. I love old movie trailers.
Well, then let's watch a trailer.
There is a creature alive today who has survived millions of years of evolution without change, without passion, and without logic. It lives to kill. A mindless eating machine. It will attack and devour anything. It is as if God created the devil and gave him jaws. This is Universal's extraordinary motion picture version of Peter Benchley's best-selling novel, Jaws.
I just found out that a girl got killed here last week. And you knew it. You knew there was a shark out there. You knew it was dangerous. But you let people go swimming anyway.
It's all psychological. You yell barracuda. Everybody says, huh? What? You yell shark. We've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July.
Is it true that most people get attacked by sharks in 3 feet of water, about 10 feet from the beach? Yeah.
What we are dealing with here is a perfect engine, an eating machine.
We're not only going to have to close the beach, we're going to have to hire somebody to kill the shark.
Bad fish. But I'll catch him and kill him.
Did you hear your father? Out of the water now!
This shark, swallow you whole. You're gonna need a bigger boat.
That's a 20-footer.
25. 3 tons on him.
Hurry up, he's coming straight for us. Don't screw it up now. Don't wait for me. Now! Shoot! What's he tell you? Give him room! I can't! He's trying to run! Oh! Cut quick! I can't hold it! Hurry! Take it up! Codie! Everybody out of the water!
None of man's fantasies of evil can compare with the reality of Jaws. Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss, Jaws. See it before you go swimming.
Jaws is the story of a hungry shark looking for food in the waters off the coast of New England. After enjoying a midnight snack and later a lunch of hot dogs, fireworks, and human, our hero is pursued by 3 men with varying motivations. Our shark heroically consumes one final meal before being brutally murdered by its would-be dessert. We know what fucking Jaws is. I don't have to give a real synopsis here.
So the first thing I want to say is that apparently it's really popular on the East Coast to do screenings of Jaws with people in inner tubes on lakes.
I believe it.
And some of them even hire scuba divers to grab people's legs and feet.
Oh, that's really funny. I would absolutely do that in a lake. I would not do that in open ocean. Were you ever a beach kid growing up?
I was not a beach kid. My parents are not beach people.
So once a week, for 1 week every summer, we would go to a house in Ocean City, New Jersey that I believe like my aunt timeshared. So she had it for 2 weeks a summer, and she would take one, and my family would take the other week. And I've been in the water when a fin was spotted off the coast, and we had to evacuate before.
Ah.
Just shit happens. They mention a Jersey incident in the movie, so made me think of that.
It was from
60s, maybe?
1916.
1916.
In the one that's in the book is 1916. A great white, swam up a river in Jersey and ate 4 people before they killed it.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out the best way to get into this. You said something about the mafia? So I hesitate to just jump into the movie itself because it's fucking Jaws. Like, just like when we did Jurassic Park. If you're listening to this, you've probably seen it or are at least familiar with the major plot points of Jaws. But you probably haven't read the book.
So, correct. I have seen Jaws a couple of times. I actually didn't see it for the first time until we lived in this apartment.
Oh.
But since then, I've seen it a handful of times. And I knew it was based on a book, but this was my first time reading the book. And in the introduction, which was from 2005, which is right before the author died, he talks about writing the screenplay. So he actually wrote the first couple of drafts of the screenplay. And he talks about at his first meeting, his line is, "At our first meeting, after an exchange of pleasantries, Richard Zanuck said to me," I'm paraphrasing, "this picture is going to be an A to Z adventure story, a straight line. So we want you to take out all the romance stuff, all the mafia stuff, all the stuff that'll just be distracting. You who have never read Jaws, you who have only seen the movie, I can see you frowning. I can hear you saying to yourself, romance? Mafia? What's he talking about? Where's all that stuff? Read on, please, and discover for yourselves."
So, the basic plot of the movie, like you said, is an adventure movie. There's a shark. Sheriff Brody is the sheriff at Amity Island, basically Martha's Vineyard, legally distinct. And he tries to close the beaches. The medical examiner is influenced to say, no, it was a boat accident to open the beaches, and then a child gets eaten by the shark. And so they close the beach for a day. Some guys kill a different shark, so they open the beaches for the 4th of July, and somebody else gets eaten, and his kid almost gets eaten, so they close the beaches, and they hunt a shark. And then the back half of the movie is Quint, the aging fisherman, Hooper, the shark expert, and Brody, who's afraid of the water, on a boat trying to hunt and kill a shark.
So, the novel is more an exploration of class in a place like Martha's Vineyard, legally distinct, Amity. Amity itself is more of a character because they're all talking about how the town is dying and will die if they don't manage to basically make it through this season. And the mayor, his reason for wanting to keep the beaches open after the first murder by the shark is unclear. He just keeps pushing to keep the beaches open. And Brody and his newspaperman friend start digging into it because they're like, why is he being so pushy? Why is he so insistent the beaches have to stay open? And then it gets to the point where they discover that he is actually in debt to a mafia family for an undisclosed amount. Basically, they've been purchasing land as it becomes available on both Amity and Long Island, and basically just wherever land is cheap, they're purchasing it. But at this point, he's so far in debt, he cannot purchase anymore. And so he needs the beaches to stay open, and so do his colleagues to make sure that the land value goes up and they don't go under in their investments. And this is made explicitly clear after he does finally agree to close the beaches, or he does finally agree that the beaches need to be reopened. He says, but I'm going to have a cop posted there. We're going to be patrolling. And the mayor's like, no, but we need to be subtle about it. And he's like, I will be as subtle as I can be. By the time he gets home, his wife is hysterical and she runs out to him and she's just like, look at what happened. Because she doesn't know about the other deaths at this point. Because at this point, the deaths are up to 4. And she opens the trash can and their cat has been, how is it described? Head twisted the whole way around. Apparently, a man in a car drove up and in front of their 8-year-old son, grabbed the cat, twisted its neck the whole way around, and said, be subtle. Yeah! He then, Chief Brody then takes the dead cat to the mayor, throws it at him, and calls him a lot of dirty things that I can't repeat on air.
I can. He called... No.
There's also a weird undercurrent of racism in the book because, like, you have to remember this is being written by a white dude in the 70s. And oh boy, this book is so aggressively written by a white dude in the 70s.
What do white people 8 years after the civil rights movement have to say about black people, Codie?
So there's a whole subplot about how they hushed up a series of rapes by a black man on the island the year before to help tourism. It's a lot of, like, offhand stuff where there's a point, business is doing so poorly that one of the store owners is like, man, at this point, I'm going to end up causing a race riot because I can only afford to hire one delivery boy this year, and one of them's white and one of them's black. And Brody's like, well, which one are you going to hire? And the guy's like, I'm going to hire the black one. He needs the money more. Thank God the white one's not a Jew. Yeah, the implication there, I think, is mafia. Again.
Damn. Yeah, so absolutely none of that made the film. Mm-hmm. Which, we'll get into the summer blockbuster of it all a little bit later, but I feel like that would have prevented the success of this movie to an extent.
Now, bear in mind, I have seen this movie. So, Hooper and Ellen, Brody's wife, don't have a mad affair.
The only romance Hooper has with the Brody is when I feel like they're going to kiss at the end of the movie. No, there's no affair. They removed that plot line. I believe I have a quote as to why. Spielberg himself decided to cut that because it would affect the camaraderie on the Orca in the third act.
Yeah, there's no camaraderie. They all fucking hate each other.
Which is fascinating to me. Because, like, the scene of the movie. Like, there's, you're gonna need a bigger boat. There's the actual shark attack scenes that you remember.
Which are incredible to read, by the way.
Oh my god, I bet. The heart of the movie is the scene right before the final battle, where the three of them are sharing their scars. And that scene climaxes with Quint telling the story of how he was on the USS Indianapolis, which is, as he puts it, the ship that delivered the bomb. Little boy. The nuke. I believe in reality it was just, like, the nuclear parts. It wasn't the full bomb, but regardless. And on its way out, it was a secret mission. The ship got hit by 2 torpedoes and sank. And as Quint describes it, 1,100 men went into the water. I'm not going to do the voice. 1,100 men go in the water. 300-something men come out of the water. The sharks got the rest. And then they all start singing, Show Me the Way to Go Home. And it's such a wonderful scene because it's these 3 men, drunk, scared, tired, bonding. And then, like, the shark hits and the engine crashes and, chaos and mayhem and people die.
So, Quint has no backstory in the novel.
Okay.
He wears a Marine Corps hat, so that's the closest you get. It's one of those things where I feel like Peter Benchley, the author, probably had that in mind as an idea of, like, yeah, this guy's a veteran. I'm sure that some of the other stuff kind of came out of the other people he was working with. And it definitely feels like that's something that makes him an interesting character, because his character in the book is kind of just fisherman who doesn't believe that this fish can outsmart him and is proven wrong over and over again. There's also this kind of thing that's touched on, I think, Rule of Threes. 3 times they mention the post lady, who is convinced that the shark is a punishment from God for Amity's sins. And that is kind of supported by the text.
Really?
Yeah, because they all sort of believe it, and it's also this shark is acting in ways that no shark should, which is explicitly not Peter Benchley's point, but you do get POV from the shark, And it's just described as, oh, I'm going to get this snack and I'm going to hang out here. And it's like...
I didn't know you got POV of the shark in the novel.
Oh, yeah.
Because famously, obviously this movie sprung a handful of sequels and imitators. The third sequel, Jaws the Revenge, is the one where Ellen Brody goes to the Bahamas with her kids.
Jaws 4, right?
That's Jaws 4, Jaws the Revenge.
Okay, you said Jaws 3.
No, I said the third sequel.
Ah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I use smart words sometimes. Jaws the Revenge, Jaws 4. She goes to the Bahamas. There's a novelation. Oh my god. I use smart words. There's a novelization of that film that includes scenes from the shark's point of view, where it is a family member of the shark from this movie chasing her to the Bahamas for revenge.
Yes. So it feels very much... It's interesting that we're doing this around the same time that, Jurassic World Rebirth or whatever is coming out. And having read Jurassic Park, I can feel like I can kind of see the influence of this on Jurassic Park, because there are like random asides from other people, and the POV from the shark's point of view is third person limited. Like every point of view that you're in is third person limited. So throughout the novel, you get Brody, you get Ellen, who is his wife, you get Hooper, very briefly, you get the shark, and then there's a handful of other random Amity citizens. You never get the mayor, you never get Quint, importantly, and you never get, you don't get everyone that you talk to, but you get kind of like the main 5. The shark attack scenes are fascinating because the way he describes them is almost clinical, and it's exactly the way that, we would think about cooking. Because the shark is just like, oh, there's something kicking up there. Let me go investigate. I'm gonna bite it to see if it's food. It's food? Cool.
Nom, 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 nom.
Like, the first attack is the woman that's swimming. She doesn't know that she's been attacked by a shark immediately, because she's just like, oh, my leg feels weird, and she reaches down and there's no leg left. And then the shark comes up and gets the rest of her.
Nom, 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 nom.
One of my nitpicks, and this is something that someone else that I was talking to about the novel mentioned as well, shout out Kate, is that when they find the corpse of the woman, he takes a moment to describe how her remaining breast looks.
Well, as neither you nor your friend have penis, that is something that comes to mind. Regardless, I'm sorry, I am but a man. When I watch The Shining, even that gross old dead lady, when she comes out of the bathtub, I'm like, there's some titties, though. Guy's gonna look at a titty, dude.
There's not even a torso that it's attached to.
Even better.
He's also actively in the process of vomiting while describing what her boob looks like.
Well, that just awakened something in him then, huh?
I hate you.
I know you do.
So much.
No, that is fucked up.
The scene with the little boy, because it's kind of switching back and forth between the shark and the little boy.
Alex Kintner?
Yes. It is described as his last... He didn't even have a last thought. He just felt all of the breath knocked out of his body as the shark rockets under him from above.
Oh.
And consumes him basically in 2 bites. The end of that chapter is fucking heart-wrenching because it's just everyone's, there's only a handful of people on the beach. And the mom is, chilling. And then she, sits up and takes off her sunglasses. And she sees the other people gesturing towards the water. And she looks out the water and she's like, there's nothing there. And then it hits her, and she's like, Alex.
Mm.
And that's the end of that chapter. So before we got on this tangent of, discussing the POV, etc., the affair.
Oh, yeah.
So weirdly, that ties back into the classism. Because Ellen actually came from the quote-unquote summer people who are, the tourists who pay everybody.
Yeah, there is a scene where she's trying to convince Islanders that she should be an Islander, and they're like, no, you weren't born here.
Yes. So she feels like an Islander because she's not part of that, rich summer people anymore. And Brody is, of course, an Islander.
Wait, what?
Brody is an Islander. Brody is from that area.
He's from New York.
Really?
Yeah.
No, he's, from Amity, born and raised.
He's, I think he's a New York City cop, former cop, that moved to Amity.
No, he's like local.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
an interesting change.
Because that's an important part of it for him, is that
They're his people?
They're his people, and also, like, it kind of has that feeling where, like, he dragged Ellen down to him.
Oh, that's one of the things I love about it, is that, like, he's out of his element here. When all the fishermen show up a week before the 4th of July to try and hunt the shark, and he can't control everything, he's having his deputy talk to them, and he specifically says, they're your people, you know their names, go talk to them. Like, this is his first summer on the island.
No, he grew up there, and then I believe that they met while he was working elsewhere, but he's lived there. Once they got married, they moved to Amity and have lived there for, like, a decade at this point. Like, all of their kids and shit have been born there. And then Hooper is actually related to somebody that Ellen used to go out with ages ago. So they knew each other in the past when Hooper was a kid.
Okay.
So that's where that connection starts. And then basically what it turns into is, like, there's a whole... In the middle of this evil shark killing people on the island, she's like, but what if I cheat on my husband? There's a whole section from her point of view where he describes all the logistics of how she begs off her volunteer shift at the hospital, and, like, she does a full body shower, full shaves everything. And then he describes how she puts perfume on everything, and she wishes she would have bought some of that new feminine hygiene deodorant. And then she drives to a gas station and changes into her fancy clothes, and then drives to this secret restaurant where they are meeting. And it's basically like she's trying to reclaim a part of her past, and he just wants to fuck. And, like, she fully does not, she isn't in love with him. It isn't an emotional connection. She straight up is just like, I want to feel desirable to a part, like, I want to feel desirable to the summer people. And that's why she does that. And that ties into that whole classism arc where it's like the summer people versus the people that live on the island. And that's at the same time that this is happening. This is when Brody is on the beach, and he starts seeing, like, reporters showing up. And a random family shows up to this private beach and wants to see where the shark's been killing people. And at first he's like, what the fuck, get out of here. And then he's like, wait a second. Publicity can be good, and, like, maybe it'll help. And then this is where the shark shows up and almost gets someone else. And again, his kind of defensiveness of his people comes in, and he shuts down, and he, like, tells the tourists to get the fuck out again.
Yeah.
And of course they're described as unpleasant and unattractive and whatever, in the way that you always do, especially in older novels. And so you have these two scenes kind of happening at the same time. So it's an interesting juxtaposition.
Yeah. The only hint of classism I caught in the film is, again, with Hooper, in that he and his family are wealthy. And sharks are, like, straight up a passion for him because he was attacked by a shark as a kid.
So he wasn't even attacked by a shark.
Or his boat was.
He just liked sharks.
Oh.
He was a marine biologist. Like, he studied marine biology in college, and it, like, consumed him. And so he's basically considered a shark expert at this point, which is why they started talking to him in the first place when the first attack happened.
Yeah, they brought him in from the Oceanographic Institute.
Yes. Is there the scene... So first of all, what is the amount of money that Quint gets per day for the hunt?
He wants $10K.
Total?
To get $10K to get the shark. Which is up from the $3,000 that Kintner's mom is offering.
So, in the book, it's $400 a day. They don't stay out at night. It is $400 a day, and he basically goes from 6 a.m. till 8 p.m. every day and comes back in. There's reasons for it, but that's his rules. And he also wants to be paid upfront in cash every day. So, later, when they're getting to the shark cage, is there that struggle between Hooper and Brody where Hooper is like, I want the shark cage on the boat, and Brody's like, fuck no, absolutely not.
Not between Hooper and Brody. There is a struggle between Hooper and Quint a lot. There's a lot of old man doing it the old man way, and then the young kid with his gadgets coming on. And it ends up being like a blend of the two that finally get the shark in the end. It's the compressed air from the scuba tank, and then just a fucking gun. you know.
So, I am almost positive this is not in the movie, but I don't know if it's a throwaway that I didn't see. Is the neonatal dolphin?
Absolutely not.
So, you gotta remember this was written in 73. This was, like, right in the era of the nascent climate revolution starting. I believe this was before... God, what is that book called? Silent Spring. I believe this is before Silent Spring came out, or it was like on the heels of Silent Spring, which is the thing that got deep banned. There were some protections for ocean creatures, but not a lot.
Yeah.
So basically, they're on the boat, and Quint is like very certain that he's gonna get the shark, and Hooper's like, "What makes you so certain?" And he's like, "I have special bait," and he taps this like thing that he has on the side. It's like a gallon drum or whatever. And he's like, "Okay, what's a special bait?" And he takes the lid off, and it is basically a neonatal bottlenose dolphin. Dead, obviously. And Hooper is, like, horrified because he's like, "What do you mean? Dolphins are protected." And Quint is like, "That's to stop commercial fishermen. Who's going to stop Quint from catching one or two? I'm not draining the area of the resources. I'm just making sure that I'm getting paid."
Yeah.
And then he kind of also has a little rant where he talks about, like, and if you're going to do that, well, then you have to go after... I'm not going to use the slur he uses, but you have to go after the Japanese ocean liners. You have to go after all of the other bigger commercial fishermen where they get slapped on the wrist and pay a fine and they're fine, but I get shut down and I can never go on my boat again. No, he's basically like, I am in the right here. Yes, I'm breaking the law, but also kind of fuck you.
It's the modern equivalent, or the 70s equivalent of, yeah, I'm going to drink my soda with a plastic straw. Talk to the military and how much they pollute.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes. It's exactly that argument in the 70s, which is fascinating that they were having that argument that early.
It's almost like things don't change. And all the modern conservatives saying, like, "Oh, no one talked about this shit when I was a kid." Yes, they fucking did. You just didn't listen, you old
were
prick.
8 years old watching TV.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is also a thing where Hooper and Quint are kind of at odds. So, another thing that I know is a change... The body count in the book at the end is 6, I believe. Because it's the first woman, the little boy, the second, at the same day as the little boy, there's the old man. There's the first fisherman that goes after him. And then there are Hooper and Quint. Both die in the hunt.
Hooper dies, eh?
He sure does, in his shark cage. That's one where you don't get the POV of the shark. Which is interesting because it's the only character that's sympathetic to the shark.
So Hooper survives the film.
Yes.
And the reason why is one of my favorite things that I've read for this. So, let me get their names. They're actually credited in the film as well at the end.
Did Dreyfuss do his own diving stunts?
That I didn't get.
Okay.
They were shooting some B-roll. Ron and Valerie Taylor were shooting some B-roll in Australia. The shark cage stuff, basically. And they used a smaller actor to make the sharks they were using look bigger. While they were shooting, a great white shark happened to show the fuck up and attack the shark cage.
Oh my god!
When this happened, there was no actor in the cage. Thank God. But the footage was amazing. And the footage is in the movie. And it's one of the strongest parts of the movie. Because we'll talk about Bruce later. But 99% of the shark in this movie, you can tell, especially with modern eyes, it's a fake shark. But there's 2 shots of a real-ass great white going fucking ham on a shark cage. And that's what sells the movie. The problem is, like I said, there's no one in the shark cage. So they changed the ending to have Hooper get out of the cage, used this amazing footage shot in Australia, and let Hooper survive.
You know?
I fucking love that. And the filmmakers who shot it, like, got a special thanks at the end of the credits for it and stuff. And it makes the movie. Because, yeah, we're going to talk about Bruce, but everyone knows the shit about Bruce. If you watch this movie on Peacock right now, it opens with Steven Spielberg, because it's the 50th anniversary, it opens with Spielberg talking about Bruce. So knowing that they actually got real shark footage that changed the plot of the movie... And it's the best underwater footage in the movie is just awesome. I fucking love that.
So it's actually funny that you bring up the special effects. Because again, in the introduction, As Jaws was being readied for publication, my ambitions for it were modest, to say the least. I knew it couldn't possibly be commercially successful. For one thing, it was a first novel, and with rare exceptions, first novels tended to languish unread on bookstore shelves. For another, it was a first novel about a fish, and I couldn't think of any novels about fish that had achieved critical or commercial success.
No Moby Dick. No,
that wasn't a first novel.
First novel's about fish. Okay, sorry.
Furthermore, I knew for certain that no one would ever make a movie from the book because it was impossible to catch and train a great white shark, and movie-making technology was nowhere near good enough to create a believable model or mechanical version.
Well, thank God Zanuck and Brown only read the novel once. Because had they read it a second time, they would not have made the movie. I feel like that's a good segue to get into the production a little bit.
Yes.
So, yeah, when Benchley was pitching the book out, when it was getting ready to be published and all that, it wound up at... I didn't get the name of the magazine because I'm an idiot. It wound up at a magazine. And that's how Zanuck and Brown managed to read it before it was widely released. They bought the rights, and they hired the director, Steven Spielberg.
I've never heard of him.
We've talked about him before. He did The Color Purple, Jurassic Park, The BFG, Ready Player One. But at this point, he had only done Duel for TV.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Honestly, if you haven't seen Duel, it fucking rips. Great movie. And he had just finished, I don't think it was released yet, The Sugarland Express.
I'm not.
So this was like his second or third feature, right? To write it, they hired Peter Benchley to do the first few drafts of the screenplay.
He apparently specifically requested it.
He apparently specifically requests that for every adaptation of his. His other screenplays include The Deep, based on his novel, and The Island, based on his novel. To touch it up, what was supposed to be a 1-week touch-up and became like a full rewrite on set, they hired Carl Gottlieb, who also did the screenplays for Jaws 2, Jaws 3D, and The Jerk.
Okay.
Spielberg was not the first choice. The first choice was John Sturges, who did Old Man and the Sea.
Okay.
They then offered it to Dick Richards, who did the Culpeper Cattle Company the year before. That was his debut. And then they fired him because he kept referring to it as a whale.
Okay.
When I say that Gottlieb's script writing went from 1 week to like constant, because of this production, basically they were writing the next day's scenes the night before. And Gottlieb and Spielberg and the three actors on the Orca would basically get together, have dinner, and make it up. Like the famous sharks go in the water, or the 1100 men go in the water monologue. It's unknown who actually wrote it. Because it could have been Robert Shaw, it could have been Gottlieb, could have been Spielberg, could have been Benchley. Like, it's just a toss-up. I should mention the actors. Roy Scheider played Brody. He was also in The French Connection. He was in, hopefully, future episode of the pod, if I can find an English translation of the book, Sorcerer, based on The Wages of Fear. And he was in the 2004 Punisher, which I think is hysterical.
Yep, they're one of those things is not like the others.
Quint was played by Robert Shaw. He was nominated for an Oscar for A Man for All Seasons. He was also in The Sting and From Russia with Love.
I don't think I've seen a single thing that he's a bit in besides Jaws.
You've seen The Sting, haven't you? Oh, shit.
No.
I've got to make you watch The Sting. Hooper was played by Richard Dreyfuss. He was in American Graffiti. He won his Oscar for The Goodbye Girl. And from my childhood, Mr. Holland's Opus. Ellen Brody was played by Lorraine Gary. She was also in Jaws 2, Jaws the Revenge, and 1941. She was the wife of a film executive, which is how she got the role. She's great. And Mayor Vaughn was played by Murray Hamilton, who was Mr. Robinson in The Graduate, and he was also in the Amityville Horror.
Amity's not a good place for that man.
Well, as they say in the film, Amity means friendship, so it's a wonderful place to scare the shit out of people. Anything with Amity.
So, in the novel, Amity is actually named for a woman who was burned as a witch.
Yeah. Other actors for Quint included Sterling Hayden.
Okay.
Who I love from The Killing, so I would have loved that. And for Hooper, names included John Voight and Jeff Bridges.
Dreyfuss was the right choice.
Dreyfuss didn't want it originally, and he turned it down originally. And then his film that came out before this, The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz, came out, and he thought he was so bad that no one would want to hire him. So then he called up Spielberg and said, "I'll take it." And I think he was actually nominated for Duddy Kravitz. Like, it was well received. The actual shooting, some fun things I found. The cinematographer, Bill Butler, actually invented new equipment to shoot underwater, including equipment to keep the camera stable. And the art department was asked not to use red in props, scenery, or costumes, because he wanted the only red to be blood.
Okay.
And I was watching for that, and the only red I saw that wasn't blood was in the autopsy on some medical bottles.
Ah.
They pretty much held to that. It was the first major motion picture to be shot on the ocean. They specifically chose Martha's Vineyard to do it because for, I think it's 12 miles off the coast, it never gets deeper than about 35 feet. So they could, rig the mechanical shark. Now, Codie, we love an on-set menace, right?
We do.
Spielberg loves him some on-set menaces that aren't people.
I do know that Bruce was a fucking menace.
Bruce was a fucking menace. And Bruce's menacehood saved this fucking movie. Like, the first thing that happened was as they were shipping the sharks into the water, like, the boat they were on capsized and they, like, sank the sharks. The water-repellent foam immediately absorbed so much water. Thing kept breaking down. The stories of Bruce are legion and very easy to find. But what that led to was using less of Bruce. I don't think you see as much as a fin until an hour into the movie. And that changes this from what could have been just a schlock B-movie akin to, I know it came after, but like a Piranha or, all the imitators that came after. It became more Hitchcockian. And it built up that suspense so much more. Because instead of seeing, oh, there's a fake-looking shark, you see whatever the shark is dragging through the water. You see water moving, but you don't see the terror.
Yes.
You hear it. You have that score, which, the score
does so much heavy lifting.
The first time John Williams played it for Spielberg at the piano, he just hit the two notes back and forth, and Spielberg laughed. He was like, okay, what's the real one?
Ah.
He had no idea what it would become. But it was so powerful that he worked with Williams basically for eternity.
Yes.
They're always working together. We did have another on-set menace, though.
Oh, okay.
Robert Shaw.
Of course, Quint is a menace.
He would just fuck off to Canada whenever he had the chance for tax reasons.
Sir.
He binge drank on set, and once Dreyfuss's reviews were coming out for Duddy Kravitz, he got fucking mad. He hated him. Which almost makes that camaraderie scene so much better. Because these are three brilliant actors at the height of their powers. Just fucking nailing that scene. The final scene, the shark exploding, Spielberg was not on set that day. Because he was convinced that once they were done shooting, they would toss him in the water and leave him. And ever since, because Jaws was so successful, he's made it a point to not be on set the last day of shooting.
Listen, superstitions are fucking wild, man, but sometimes you don't want to risk it.
And then the last bit I have is Robert Shaw's son, Ian, co-wrote and starred as his father in a play called The Shark is Broken, about the making of Jaws.
So
you've got some trivia on the book, I heard.
I have some trivia on the book. So first of all, it's funny that there's a play called The Shark is Broken, because Peter Benchley wrote a book called Shark Trouble about the writing of Jaws, the shooting of Jaws, and his subsequent, basically, delve into marine biology and conservation as a career.
Yeah.
So, there is a letter in the book. It is a letter from Peter Benchley to David Brown, and it is written April 15th, 1974. And it begins, Dear David, as I mentioned on the phone this morning, I am deeply troubled by some of the things in the final draft screenplay of Jaws. I fear that if they were ever to appear on screen, the picture would be hooted at, not just by shark freaks, but by general audiences too, as an insane farce. Furthermore, I think they detract for the suspense of the film. The specific things that he cites in his letter, which in its entirety printed here is like 4 pages long.
Okay.
He complains about the rogue shark concept. It basically says that the authority Spielberg consulted is a fucking moron. And rogue shark is... I would prefer to offer one artistic argument against the rogue shark thing. If you present this shark as a world-girdling maniac responsible for nearly every recorded shark attack death, you destroy one of the central horrors of the story, namely that a shark doesn't have to be deranged to eat people. There is profound terror in the normalcy of killing.
He's got a point.
He thought Hooper was an insufferable, pedantic little schmuck.
He is.
I have tried to avoid picking nits, things like the horseshoe crabs, and the things that trouble me least, which you may well consider nits, I've saved for last. He had complaints about Ellen's character, and then he goes page by page. So, page 13, Meadows' speech about sharks and their swim bladders is long. Page 40, Hooper would never be suckered into believing that a 10-foot blue shark killed those people. Page 44, Brody here seems to be disbelieving the blue shark theory. When did he change his mind? And so on and so forth. And one of the funniest ones that is included is Hooper would not have a beard if he was diving, because it would mess with the scuba mask.
Ah! It sounds like they actually made some adjustments based on that. When they get the tiger shark, immediately he's like measuring the jaws and he's like, this isn't right.
Yes. The other thing that is a little bit fun is there is a list of names. Basically, up until the day before it was getting ready to print, they didn't have a title for the novel. So him, his editor, and his father went out to dinner and basically brainstormed a bunch of ideas.
Chili McFreeze.
Some of them are that bad.
Eric Eargon. Sorry.
So,
wrestling references.
We've got Great White, White Knight, Shimo Knight, Death in Shimo.
Shimo?
Yes, I believe that's a Martha's Vineyard thing.
Okay.
A Knight in Shimo, Death in Squam, Shimo Bay. There's a lot that go on like this.
Oh my god.
Hooper Clasper, Adrenaline, misspelled, Death from the Sea, crossed out, The Fish, Horror, Leviathan...
Horror! Do you want to go see horror?
Phosphorescence. And then, where is it? There's several... The way that they finally got to the name was that there's a couple of the names that include Jaws. So there's Jaws over Amity, Jaws of Despair Terror. There's one other one, and I can't find it at the moment. But at the end of that dinner, when they still hadn't decided, he was just like, you know what? We can't decide on a title that we both like, but there's a word that we both like. Let's just go with Jaws. And when he told his father they went with Jaws, he's like, well, what does it mean? I don't know, but at least it's short.
I mean, it's fucking awesome.
It is an iconic title.
Yeah. To the point where there's an unofficial fourth sequel called Cruel Jaws.
Oh my god.
That is completely unrelated, and I've seen it, and it's not good.
Oh, there is one other thing. Apparently, finding a cover, designing a cover was a big problem.
That's actually what I wanted to get into next. So, this film changed how Hollywood marketed movies. For the last 50 years, the way that we understand marketing came from Jaws. And a few others were doing this at a time. But the cover, the famous cover, close your eyes, you can picture it. The shark coming up in the water and the woman swimming up top.
Yep.
They designed that to work on the novel and on the film poster. I don't have any... Do you have more information on who did it and why? Or... Because I didn't grab that. I just know that that's related. Because they wanted that corporate synergy.
Let's see. There is a little bit about it, but I don't... I think it's in the chapter from...
If you don't, that's okay.
No, I know there is something in here. I think it's in the chapter from... Oh, I'm sorry. There was one other title that I wanted to read, which was a suggestion from his father that was very tongue-in-cheek, which was, what's that noshing on my leg? It is spelled exactly the way you think it is.
It's so fucking funny.
There was another title that was patently absurd, and it was Cunnilinga No More.
Yeah, Jaws works.
Okay. There were problems with the jacket design of the book. One version was rejected by Doubleday salesmen who said they couldn't sell a book that looked so disgusting. It brought to mind, they claimed, the Freudian nightmare of the vagina dentata. Another was too boring. Another was black. Then Doubleday's artistic genius Alex Gottfried found the perfect combination of erotic symbolism, Freudian but nobody said so, blatant but acceptable sexuality, and horror.
And it is that classic image. So so you mentioned earlier Jurassic World Rebirth is coming out in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
The way we know that is because I watch TV pretty regularly, and I mean like cable TV, not just streaming. And we'll see ads for Jurassic World. And then we'll go to, I don't know, fucking Burger King. And the kids' meal toys are Jurassic World toys. And if you go to the Target, there's Jurassic World merchandise. You can get the Jurassic World logo on a mug. There's a ride down at Universal that's Jurassic World. And there's novel tie-ins and all this stuff. That all started with Jaws. Jaws was among the first films to market heavily on TV. It was one of the first movies to open wide. It opened on, I think, 480 screens. Now, you may be thinking, but Bill, when you did The Irishman, you talked about how it only opened in independent cinemas, and the most it could get was 500 screens. Yes, that was true in 2019. In 1975, that was considered a very wide release. For example, The Godfather, which came out a few years prior and at the time held like the box office records, I think opened on 7 screens its opening weekend. Like a few in New York and a few in LA. And then it would spread from there. Because the idea was you want people from Palm Springs to drive to LA to see this movie. You don't want them to just, walk down the street. But with Jaws, they were like, we're going to open this everywhere. We're going to put this on every screen. And it fucking did gangbusters. When summer previously to this was considered when you dump out your shit movies that weren't going to do well, even wide releases they would do on movies they thought were shit. Because they figured, we'll put it on a bunch of screens, a bunch of people will go opening weekend, word of mouth will get out that it's bad, no one will go, at least we'll make our money. With our good movies, we'll do them smaller and spread them. With Jaws, they were like, put it in every fucking screen, and then people were going 4 or 5 times. Everyone was seeing this movie instead of going to the beach that summer.
I wonder why.
Yeah. No, that's like an actual thing. Like the effect of this movie on human-shark relations was very negative. And Peter Benchley, I believe, is still, or not still, he's dead. Shark attack, no way. Now he is still like, or
up until his death.
He was expressing regret for how this affected how people view sharks.
Even in the introduction, he talks about how even though he was considered a shark expert at the time, he still relied on some tropes that have since been disproven, and he spent the back half of his life after Jaws basically rectifying the damage he did with Jaws.
Yeah. And like to this day, like you can go back to 1975 as where people became afraid of going in the water. A comedian that I follow, Adam Todd Brown, will regularly say, I will not go in the water because of sharks. You can tell me that I'm more likely to get struck by lightning than eaten by a shark. That's true, because lightning strikes on land, and I don't go in the water. Great joke. Like,
that is a very good joke.
Yeah, like, and the success of this movie changed blockbusters. Like, now we're going into blockbuster season, and every time a new Jurassic Park movie comes out, a new Avengers movie comes out, these new the Fast and Furious movies, they'll come out May, June, July. And part of that's because, like, teenagers aren't in school. They've got a lot of time to go to movies. And I think that's what they discovered with something like Jaws. But it's just become the norm now that we have these summer blockbuster movies. Which I think is a good segue into the season that we're kind of, sort of in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, before we do that, do you recommend the book?
So I think the book took me maybe 4 hours to read. Like, I almost couldn't put it down. It's not, it's a quick read. It's not anything that's going to tax you. The scenes from the shark's point of view, the scenes of the shark attacks are incredibly well written. There's a lot of toxic masculinity in it. There is some era current racism. I enjoyed it, but I don't think I like it.
Okay.
It's kind of like reading old Stephen King.
Okay, yeah, sure.
But it was quick. The version that I have, including all the supplemental materials, which is both, the pre-introduction, the extra chapter from Shark Trouble, and everything else. There's actually even some pictures from production. 340 pages. Like I said, it took me like 3 or 4 hours to read. Not bad. I don't know that I would seek out anything else by Peter Benchley, but yeah, just go into it.
So do I have to cancel the Peter Benchley season we're doing?
Yes.
Aw, damn.
What about you? Do you recommend one of the most critically acclaimed movies of all time?
Yeah. Yes, I do. No, it's... how do I put this? It's a fucking masterpiece. It's so engaging and engrossing. The performances have such a realism to them. And part of that is that Spielberg specifically didn't want to hire stars because he didn't want the film to be distracted by someone's star power. So he cast some relative unknowns. And most of the side characters and extras are people that lived on Martha's Vineyard. In fact, there's a fun story. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick because I forgot to put it in my notes. With Alex Kittner and his mom. Decades after the movie came out, the woman who played Alex's mom walked into a restaurant and noticed that there was an Alex Kittner sandwich on the menu. And she was like, oh, I played his mom. And then who should come out of the back but the restaurant's owner, the guy who played her son. And it was the first time they'd seen each other in like 30 years.
That's so cute.
Like, I love that shit. But all throughout this movie are non-actors giving incredible performances. And it's because it's so grounded, the film. And next to that is young filmmaker Steven Spielberg doing incredible shit. And a lot of it's probably the cinematographer as well, who's out here devising new devices to shoot underwater. But the Alex Kittner shark attack scene, the famous one with this, he does a Hitchcock zoom in there, which, fair enough. Vertigo did that first, or most famously. But the impressive thing for me in that scene is, as people are walking by the frame on the beach, is when it cuts from the slow zoom into Sheriff Brody to hit what he's seeing in the water. You don't see hard cuts, you see wipes, but it's from people walking in front of the camera. And it's such a creative way to heighten the tension in the scene without just relying on dialogue and score and using the editing to the advantage. And it's shit like that is all over this movie to heighten tension. And it's just a fucking masterpiece of filmmaking.
It's fascinating because, it seems like we really enjoy or tend to enjoy early Spielberg. Because I'm thinking, we both enjoyed Jurassic Park. We both enjoyed Jaws. You fucking hated the BFG and Ready Player One.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating, especially because we just came out of Scorsese, and it feels like now we're in an era where Martin Scorsese is at the height of his power, and Spielberg maybe lost some of it.
Yeah, I wonder what it is about that. And I was reading some analysis. I didn't put anything in my notes because it was scholastic reviews of the film and analysis and real heady shit. It's not podcast worthy, but it was. This film kind of took away from auteurism and kind of put power back in the studio, even though it was Spielberg was becoming a name out of this movie.
Yeah.
And continues to be the name.
Because of the machine of marketing that
it's because of that marketing machine, and the studio suddenly had all these more levers they could pull that weren't just relying on the artistry of the creators.
Yeah. And
I think there's something to be said about Spielberg becoming just part of the machine as he's progressed. And that's not to say that every, late stage Spielberg is bad. I know some of his later, more adult-oriented stuff, all the pornography he shoots is great. No, stuff like, was it Bridge of Spies was him, I think?
I believe so, yeah.
He's had some, later or more recent works that are good. Catch Me If You Can was 2003, and that's incredible. Warhorse was, 2011, and that movie is way better than it has any right to be. It's forgettable, but it's still, an enjoyable ride.
Bridge of Spies was 2015, and it was Spielberg.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And I heard good things about that. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen Lincoln yet, but I've heard great things about that, and that's, later stage Spielberg. So it might just be that he's been so prolific as a filmmaker that he has hits and misses.
But that even with the things that you're describing, you can't exactly merchandise Catch Me If You Can or Bridge of Spies or Lincoln the same way that you could merchandise Ready Player One.
True.
So
where you can tell your audience to stand up and cheer every time you recognize something in the background.
Yeah.
Insufferable.
That anywhere where the studio is let's get our fingers in here and get some extra marketing money and squeeze that out of it, or collaboration or cross-promotion or whatever, I feel like that's where he's getting affected. But with his other stuff that isn't something that they think they can squeeze more money out of.
When he has a little bit more freedom to make the movie he wants to make, as opposed to make some dollars for some shareholders.
Yeah.
That talent and skill is still there.
Yeah.
It will always be there.
And I will also say, I don't necessarily think that Scorsese could make a children's movie.
Didn't he? I think he did. I believe Hugo
was
for children.
it was still, like, not necessary. It wasn't the same target audience as the BFG.
It was PG.
Yeah.
I will give it that. But yeah, like, and that just goes, it's something we talked about when we were doing the Scorsese with how two directors coming up at the same time, but on opposite ends of the country, just attacking different genres, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, while we're on summer blockbusters, why don't we keep going with summer blockbusters? In fact, I think we should re-release our Jurassic Park episode, I think on the 12th, because that's when the new Jurassic World comes out. So I did pull one more little bit of trivia here. In October of 1975, at a festival audience, Steven Spielberg declared, quote, "Making a sequel to anything is just a cheap, carny trick." So I think for our next episode, we should do Steven Spielberg's sequel to Jurassic Park, based on Crichton's novel, The Lost World. We're going to do The Lost World, Jurassic Park.
Hell yeah.
We're going to have that young lady doing gymnastics to kick a velociraptor. We're going to have Vince Vaughn shooting dinosaurs. We're going to have a real interesting discussion on what the fuck happened here.
I'm excited to get to read more Crichton.
I know you are. We're going to have to talk about how Spielberg took a novel that was not a sequel to Jurassic Park and made it one.
Perfect.
But until then, you can find us on the internet in the link tree in the description below this podcast. There you can also find our high school mixtape and our email address where you can send us suggestions, thoughts, complaints, corrections, omissions, pictures of... Nope, not going to finish that sentence. Pictures of your cute pets. Anything you want, you can reach out to us there. But until next time...
Don't go in the water?
No, go in the water. I don't care. Get eaten by sharks. You do you. Be your own man, or woman, or person. Abolish ice.
Hell yeah.